My whole theory of education is that you entertain people and sneak education in when you're not looking. I find this works equally well for a room full of fourth graders as it does for members of Congress. Just saying. When it comes to education, engagement is key. And frankly, NASA just has the coolest toys. Like the International Space Station. It's orbiting 200 miles above us as I speak. It's got an internal capacity larger than 4 family homes and an acre of solar panels. To put that size in perspective, I like to tell people that the station would just barely fit in Michigan football stadium. Yes, we had some issues early on. It took over 100 missions to build the space station, but we put the astronauts on board in the 3rd mission. A friend of mine used to say it's like building the furnace room of a house. And then you move a family of 4 into the furnace room and tell them to finish building the house, while continuing to be productive citizens. And of course, the house is in Antarctica, and the dog sled bringing supplies comes once every 3 months. And on the ground, the thousands of people on the ground are from 16 different countries, speaking more than 12 languages. There were pieces of station that had never met before they got on orbit. It's kind of the ultimate in a team project. And I think that's important to teach students. And it was all built for science. You can do space science looking up. You can do earth science looking down. There's equipment attached to station that can analyze the atmosphere and then correlate it with what's going on in the earth below. There's another piece of equipment on station that allows scientists to create designer materials a single molecule at a time. Inside the station, we can grow cells and tissues. In the microgravity environment, they take their natural 3-dimensional shape, which allows us to study the structure of receptors and how drugs really interact with them. This allows us to get new drugs to market way faster. Of course, the real purpose of station is to try to understand what it takes to get people to live and work in space for a long, long time. If you're going to work in space, you're going to have an EVA suit. This marvelous, self-contained environment gives the astronauts protection and comfort when they leave the ship and go out into the hazards in space. This technology has been spun off for Earth, and these are currently being used as therapeutic cooling and heating suits for patients. One of the issues that we always struggle with is how to monitor crew health without getting in their way or asking them to stop what they're doing. This is equally as important whether you're on a spacewalk or whether you're inside the station working a really hectic schedule. So the engineers invented a thermometer pill. The astronauts take the thermometer pill, and their temperature data are continuously transmitted through the onboard computers down to the doctors below. Then after a couple of days, well, they have to take another pill. This technology has also been spun off, and it's being used for athletes, firefighters, and soldiers to monitor their health while they work. In the future, we're going to inject the astronauts with nanobots. These are exactly what they sound like, very tiny robots. All right? The idea is you put them in the circulatory system where they have access to all the tissues, and they can search for, say, cancer cells. Not only identify them, but they can destroy them. Now, you might imagine what someone like Stephen King would do with a technology like this. But can you also imagine a world in which nobody has cancer at greater than the single-cell level? If we're going to go to space, live in space, we have to have habitats, and we have to provide essentials like oxygen and water. So NASA engineers are working on making the walls of the habitats out of carbon nanotubes. These nanotubes allow oxygen into the habitat and CO2 to flow out. So it concentrates oxygen and provides a shirt-sleeve environment for the people inside. Now, we don't really need to concentrate oxygen here on Earth, but since the nanotubes can be made for any molecule, you can imagine them being used for filters, maybe the walls of an operating room in the hospital. We might even be able to make habitats underwater. It isn't all about technology. I think the most underappreciated benefit of spaceflight has been the generations of people who were inspired by it. both here and all around the world. Now, it shouldn't come as any surprise to you that I was inspired by the Apollo program, or that thousands of people who work at NASA and for NASA were inspired by it. But did you know that entrepreneurs were inspired by it? And artists, environmentalists, and writers, and leaders. We need inspired leaders today. She really said that. We need inspired leaders today, because if NASA loses its budget, all of this goes away. We wouldn't have had the incredible advancements in satellite communication that we had with Apollo. We won't have any more exploration, no more thermometer pills, no more carbon nanotubes, no more inspiration. There's a line from the movie Apollo 13. Jim Lovell's talking to his wife shortly after they watched Neil Armstrong take those amazing first steps on the moon. He said, "It wasn't a miracle. We just decided to go." Talk about untapped. You see, what we really lose when we stop reaching for the stars, when we stop trying to accomplish things that are way beyond our current capability, is the very idea that we can. And that would be the biggest tragedy of all. Thank you.